Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool are back in Champions League action on Wednesday night, playing Porto away from home in the round of 16. It's a massive tie. It's the first time in 9 years that Liverpool have been in the knockout stages of the Champions League. For me, it's the first time we've ever been in the knockout stages of the Champions League since I started watching football and supporting Liverpool. So it's absolutely fantastic. I am hugely excited. It obviously does have the caveat that it is the first leg. So no matter what happens, no matter how exciting the game is, no matter how incredible the result is, at the end of the day, the commentator at full time is going to say, well, it's only half time in the tie. It's still all to play for. Nothing's decided yet. So, you know, it's not going to be final. It's never going to be the kind of result that's going to make you just want to go out and get on the ale until next week. But at the end of the day, again, European tie, knockout stages, away from home against a very good side in Porto, and just another opportunity for this Liverpool side to show how absolutely fantastic it is, because obviously last time we were on the European stage we won 7-0 against Spartak Moscow, and I think after that game we were all just itching to say Liverpool in the Champions League again. It's finally back, and I'm very excited for it. So team news going into this game: it has been confirmed that Loris Karius will be starting in goal. No more mucking around with rotating goalkeepers based on competition. Jurgen Klopp has obviously made the final decision now. Karius is the 100% the number one from here on in. There'll be no dicking around with it anymore. No more like, oh, who's the better number one? We'll play one in one competition, we'll play one in the other. It is Karius. I'm very happy with that decision, to be honest, because Loris Karius looks like he's improving very quickly. Obviously he's nowhere near the finished article, and we will have to wait and see until the end of the season before we kind of make a decision on whether or not Loris Karius is good enough to be our goalkeeper first choice in the long term. But based off the last two games, very good game against Spurs, another commanding display and a clean sheet against Southampton. So things are improving very quickly. It looks like an extended run of games in the team is really helping Loris Karius, which really, you know, it should come as no surprise, because despite the fact he's been at the club for 18 months, this is only the second time in his career when he's actually been the designated first choice keeper and is allowed to play week in, week out. So it kind of makes sense that it's only now that Loris Karius is finding his feet. But yeah, he's doing very well. Long may it continue. He will be the starting goalkeeper for this match. Elsewhere in terms of team news, Joe Gomez, who was previously a little bit of touch and go for this match, he's still in that kind of state. Jurgen Klopp said in his press conference this evening that Joe Gomez will undertake a fitness test tomorrow to decide whether or not he's available for this game. Obviously, he had to miss out the game against Southampton, so Trent Alexander-Arnold filled in for him there. So we'll have to see tomorrow whether Joe Gomez is going to start. I don't know whether that'll be announced beforehand or whether we'll just have to wait until the lineup comes out at 6:45. But yeah, that is the situation with Joe Gomez. And elsewhere, I don't think there's much injury news apart from the fact that Ranjal Klavan is now, according to Jurgen Klopp, back fit. I get the feeling he was back and fit for the Southampton game, but it has now been confirmed by Jurgen Klopp in his press conference. So yeah, that's all the team news. As for how I think we're actually going to line up, obviously it's going to be Loris Karius in goal. Massive game for him. You know, gutted he didn't get a clean sheet, and a massive game against Spurs. He was just very unlucky to have conceded the 2 goals that he did in that game. So hopefully he can get a nice big statement clean sheet in this tie. Obviously, with it being away from home, you kind of want that vintage Rafa Benitez away performance that we used to produce in Europe. We came very close to it against Hoffenheim earlier on in the tournament. Unfortunately, we conceded in stoppage time there, but obviously a clean sheet would be fantastic for Loris Karius. Onto the defence, I reckon it's going to be Van Dijk and Joel Matip for this game. The same back line that we went with against Southampton, who we played last. I think Van Dijk, obviously very imposing in that game. He's absolutely nailed on to start this one for me. Joel Matip, a little bit iffy. Didn't look super duper composed against Southampton, but I think seeing as he did okay, while I've been an advocate for Van Dijk and Lovren after what I thought was an impressive performance from them in the game against Spurs, I reckon Jurgen Klopp is going to stick with Matip and Van Dijk unless he sees any fitness issues or tiredness issues with them two. At the fullback positions, I think if he's fit, and it's a big if, and it's just impossible for me to say because at the moment even Jurgen Klopp doesn't know, but if he's fit, I think that Joe Gomez starts this game. If not, obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold will be deputising. Nathaniel Clyne, of course, is in the Champions League squad for Liverpool, so it's expected that he will be coming back to full fitness reasonably soon, but again, just not available for this game. And then at left back, I reckon we're going to go with Andrew Robertson. Obviously, Moreno played all the Champions League games earlier on in the season. Robertson hasn't had a look in European competition yet, but since Moreno got injured in that last game against Spartak Moscow, Robertson has just been very good, put in some really good performances, especially against the big teams as well, and has a little bit more defensive nous than Alberto Moreno does. So I think Robertson's going to start. start, especially if Alexander-Arnold has to start over Gomez as well, because I think if you are going to have Trent, then you need Robbo on the other side just to give a little bit of stability. Maybe if Gomez starts, he might experiment with Moreno, but personally, I reckon he's going to go with Andrew Robertson. So yeah, that is the back line. The midfield, I reckon it's going to be quite reserved for this one, because like I said, this is probably going to have to be kind of like the vintage, classic European away performance where we just defend very well, stay very organised, and just try and nick a few goals through the equality that we have in our attacking lineup. So with the midfield, I reckon it's going to be Henderson in the number 6, and then either side, I reckon he's going to go with Emre Can and James Milner, because they're all three of them are kind of, you know, they're hard-working players, they're robust, they're strong, they all have a defensive side to their game. They all have a little bit going forward, but not too much that the side's going to be outbalanced in any way. And I just think that, you know, away from home, we really want to try and put in the effort to win the midfield battle against Porto. So that's how I think we're going to line up with the midfield. And then the front three, obviously, Mo Salah, Roberto Firmino and Sadio Mane. I think this is an absolutely massive game for Mane in particular, because obviously not having a great run of form, we're all aware of that now. It's really not going well for him. In the past on this channel, I've said that I think to help his form come back, what Mane really needs is not just a goal, but a really commanding performance. You know, the kind of one where he just runs the opposition ragged, absolutely runs the game, gets a goal or two, and basically just wins the match single-handedly for Liverpool. It's the kind of thing that he was capable of doing last season. He hasn't really found that form this season, especially since he dropped off around about the start of December. And I think it's just the perfect time to get it. You know, there are only so many big games left in the season, apart from this and the second leg against Porto, presuming we don't go through in the Champions League, which I think we will. I think we will beat Porto. But if we don't, then apart from that, all we've got is Chelsea and Man United in the Premier League. So we're running out of big games for Sadio Mane to make his mark and rediscover his form. And I just think, you know, away from home, Porto might end up playing a high line. There should be opportunities on the counter-attack. It's just the perfect situation for Sadio Mane, provided he can rediscover that confidence, rediscover that form, and get the golden touch back in front of goal. So Porto then, I'll admit, I don't really know much about them. You know, I didn't watch many of their games in the Champions League so far this season. Obviously, they came second in what was quite a difficult group, really. You know, they knocked out RB Leipzig and Monaco. Besiktas ran out kind of surprise leaders of that group. I think no one really thought at the start of the season that Besiktas were going to dominate that group in the Champions League. But I think Porto, to come ahead of RB Leipzig, are obviously a very promising young side, doing pretty decently in the Bundesliga. And Monaco, who, while they're a shadow of their former self, they've still got quality in the side, like, you know, Thomas Lemar, who we all know about, and Radamel Falcao as well. So had a pretty decent group campaign. And obviously, if we're talking about the players they've got, then they have got Abubakar, or Abu Bakr, however you may say it, who, you know, if we're going to be talking the kind of typical things that Liverpool may struggle with, or at least may have struggled with in the past, then he is a big centre forward. He's a strong centre forward. He is a target man. So I think what's either going to happen is he's either going to absolutely run us ragged and just leave our defenders lying about all over the place and score a hat-trick or something, or he's going to be completely anonymous like Lukaku always is against us, whether it's, you know, Man United or Everton that we're playing against. So yeah, Porto, while I don't know much about them, they are obviously a very, very good footballing side, because they're in the Champions League round of 16. They're currently top of the Portuguese first division, so no team to be sniffed at. And I think in terms of playing style, I've heard somewhere that they are a wee bit defensive. You know, I don't think they're like Atletico Madrid levels, but I think that's something for Liverpool to watch out for. Like I said, while it is their home turf, they'll be looking to get goals and establish some dominance in the first leg before they go to Anfield for the second leg. Obviously, it is ideal to have some kind of lead, because Anfield is just a cauldron on European nights, so I think Porto will be aware of that. But if they have got a really good defence, then Liverpool will have to be just a little bit wary about how they counter-attack and how they try and get in behind that Porto line. So while this is going to be a difficult tie, all Champions League games are, especially in the round of 16, I'm still very, very confident that Liverpool can at least get a result, and I reckon win the game. So here are my 3 reasons why I think we will beat Porto for the first leg at least. First of all, Mo Salah. Need I say any more? The guy is just a phenomenon at this stage. It just goes without saying how absolutely fantastic he is. He can do it on any stage, and that's so important for Liverpool at this stage of the season. You know, when the pressure's on in the Premier League, and when we are facing the latter stages of the Champions League and coming up against quality teams like Porto, you need a player like Mo Salah who's just capable of coming up with the goods, you know. And if Porto are going to dominate this game, which is possible, you know, Liverpool are a very good side, but Porto are as well, we've got to be aware that they will probably try and be the dominant side. They'll try and put a lot of pressure on us. Then we probably aren't going to get too many chances, and the ones that we do, we will absolutely have to take. Like I said, talking about the Hoffenheim performance earlier on the season, which was one of our better away performances in this season, certainly in Europe. When you look at the goals we actually scored in that game, it was a wonder free kick from Trent Alexander-Arnold, and it was a deflected curler from James Milner. So in these kind of games, it's not easy to get goal scoring opportunities, and you need someone like Mo Salah who's just going to take any opportunity that comes to him. So yeah, I think Mo Salah will be absolutely massive in this game. Second of all, staying on the subject of players, I normally try and only pick one player when thinking of 3 reasons why I'll beat someone, but I've gone with Virgil van Dijk because, again, just a phenomenon, you know, not quite on Mo Salah level yet. He's not quite the world beater that Mohamed Salah has become for Liverpool, but he's kind of like I mentioned with Karius earlier, he's just developing really, really quickly, you know. They've got their separate reasons. Loris Karius obviously getting his first big run in the side really for ages, certainly since early on in his first season at the club. And Virgil van Dijk only arrived recently. It's going to take him a while to adapt, especially having come in during the January transfer window during pre-season. But we've seen improvements game after game. Things have been getting better and better. Absolutely fantastic performance last time out against Southampton. And I think he's absolutely nailed on to start this game. And I think he will be hugely influential for Liverpool, especially if Porto put us under a lot of pressure like I'm expecting them to do so. And finally, the suggestion that Liverpool might have actually got better at handling games and just game management in general in the previous game against Southampton just gives me a little bit more confidence going into this tie. Obviously, Southampton, Porto, very different kettle of fish, but I think that the way we managed that 2-0 lead, the way we were so careful and sensible about it, was just really, really inspiring as a Liverpool fan going into the rest of the season, and fills me with a lot more confidence because, as we all know, Liverpool are a bit iffy when it comes to managing their leads on the European stage so far this season at least. Like I said, while the Hoffenheim performance was great, we did concede that goal in stoppage time, which took a little bit of sheen off the performance and meant that the second leg wasn't quite as much of a formality as we would have liked it to be, although 20 minutes in it pretty much was. And then when you look at other away performances this season, the Sevilla one does spring to mind of a situation where Liverpool had a lead and just could not handle it. But I think the addition of Virgil van Dijk to that back line just really calms things down. The back line just looks so much more composed, and I think with the midfield that I'm expecting us to put out in this game, I think Klopp will go with at least something along the lines of Henderson, Emre Can and Jorginho Wijnaldum. I just think they've got a little bit more of what it takes when it comes to just defending, maybe sitting on a lead a little bit and being sensible when it comes to seeing games out. And obviously the progression of Loris Karius helps this as well, because him becoming more confident and Van Dijk becoming more confident just creates this vicious cycle, and they ooze calmness that affects the entire defence and the entire team as well. So fingers crossed that Liverpool can take some sort of lead early on in the game. It's the kind of thing that they've started to do a lot recently, and the kind of thing that they do like to do in Europe as well. So hopefully we can do something like that, and then hopefully with our new and improved defence and a nice little defensive midfield, we can see that lead out to the end of the game and beat Porto. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. I'm sorry that there's not a FIFA predictor for this match, but I just haven't got time because it's come out so soon after the Southampton game. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this. Give the video a like if you've enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back tomorrow after Liverpool have hopefully beaten Porto in the Champions League. Bye for now.